staffers for the U.S. Agency for International Development, known as USAID, were told to stay out of the Washington, D.C. headquarters. USAID staffers said they tracked 600 employees who reported being locked out of the agency's computer systems overnight. USAID security chiefs were placed on leave after refusing to turn over classified material in restricted areas.
An unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government. Friday night, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, led by billionaire Elon Musk, gained access to the Treasury Department's entire system of payments, including Social Security and Medicare benefits and Americans' tax refunds.
So what is USAID? When people hear the name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development, not aid. It's not a charity. And international development is simply capacity building. It is local and regional capacity building done across the whole world, i.e. internationally. The primal id in USAID, international development, is about capacity building of assets that can be used by either the Pentagon, the State Department, or the CIA for their own activities. So if you're the Secretary of State and you were asked by the National Security Council or the President to do something in a different country, overthrow their government, how would you do that? And the first thing that I said is you would look at the assets that already exist in the country. Do we need new assets in addition to the ones that we currently have, or are the existing assets, can they achieve this simply by giving them enough money, giving them enough resources, giving them enough training, giving them enough support? One of the main ways that capacity building would be financed would be through USAID. USAID would say that it's doing something, funding a hospital system, funding universities, funding civil society organizations, funding media institutions, funding independent media in the region. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Independent media in the region on USAID payroll. And those institutions, those assets, would then be bigger and more powerful and more capable more capable of serving the State Department's goal, aka advancing U.S. national interests.
There are riots it's called the Maidan Rebellion in Ukraine, which we're not told that we are financing those riots. The newspapers never told us, our government never told us. USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots. Those riots lead to a coup d'etat against the first democratically elected government of the Ukraine. It was a government that refused to choose sides and to say, we're going to be on the side of the West. So we wanted them out. A month before that government is overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who's the part of the centerpiece of the neocon ideology and who is now a high-level official in the State Department, has a secret call with the U.S. ambassador, which is tape recorded and is now public, which anybody can go and look up, where she is picking the new cabinet for the Ukraine, which is which is a U.S. Western cabinet. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown.
Is that democracy when Victoria Nuland picks her government?
In terms of sort of the process moving ahead, we want to keep the moderate Democrats together. The problem is going to be Tony Book and his guys. And, I'm sure that's part of what Yanukovych is calculating on all of this.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Klitsch and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Klitsch going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
All right. Hello and welcome. How about that? That's pretty interesting, huh? I'm sure many of you guys have been following the whole USAID thing going on, but I thought that was a pretty good explanation of a little bit of the background as to what it's all about. But we'll get into it a little bit more as we move forward tonight. Hello and welcome. This is your host, Doug Diamond, and you are at the Diamond Report Live, 10:05 p.m. on 2/9/25. Hope you guys have had a good week. I've had a pretty good week, I guess, for the most part. It's been super busy in many ways, but I guess primarily work-related. But anyway, we'll take a look at the news tonight, and yep, you can see that the real Super Bowl, no, not the football one, but the real Super Bowl is happening in D.C. right now. It's the Patriots versus the Steelers, Stealers. Thought that was very, very true, and that's exactly what's going on. as far as the actual game that's happening in D.C. So anyway, that's a little meme that's front and center on Hal's website at the moment. But I wanted to just kind of mention this. This is, I'm sure a lot of you guys who pay attention to the news throughout the week probably have heard some of these things, but I just wanted to bring your attention to a few of these completely insane expenses that have been uncovered just this last week. Based on recent discussions and reports, here are a few of the expenditures by USAID that have been highlighted as controversial or insane by various sources. Here's just a few of them. Diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI initiatives. $1.5 billion of your money was sent to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland. $16.8 million to support equitable outcomes in inclusion in Vietnam. It's kind of hard to follow all these numbers, but just stay with me here. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education programs. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gender language. Took $8 million to do that. LGBTQI plus programs. Here's some of them. Here's some of the expenditures, just a few. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $47,000 for an opera. I guess they probably got a pretty good deal. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for transgender health care and sex changes in Guatemala, and funding for transgender operas, comic books, and other media in various countries. So that's just a few there. And then other notable expenditures, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes at teaching artisan design skills, and $2 million to promote tourism in Lebanon. You remember the place that Israel is bombing back to the Stone Age along with Gaza? Or at least they were. $20 million for an Iraqi version of Sesame Street, though this is part of a broader educational initiative. $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. And I've seen the clips. It's hilarious, but not worth $20 million. Allegations of $10 million worth of U.S. aid-funded meals going to an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group in Syria. So $10 million bucks. And of course, the last one here, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, although this was meant to improve transportation and economic livelihoods in rural areas. And then it goes on. And this is a little crazy. We heard about the $50 million for condoms in Gaza. That was reported on this show last week, as well as many other people were talking about that. And $150 billion for strategy for climate action, though specifics on spending from this amount are less than clear, which means it's being taken and put in people's bank accounts in other countries. That's where all this money is really going, not for those things that I just read. It is so insane what is being uncovered by Musk and the Doge team. So that is why the Democrats are screaming their heads off, screaming bloody murder, and so upset, and now want to shut down the government, to which I say, yeah, go ahead. Because it is getting defunded. At least a lot of the complete nonsense is getting defunded, as it should be. And if you have never seen the money spent being talked about for shrimp on treadmills, I would just leave you with this little video. This is literally shrimp running on treadmills. That was something else the taxpayers of this country have funded. And as far as the shrimp on treadmills goes, it says that refers to a scientific study that was funded by the National Science Foundation, not USAID. However, still coming from taxpayers, right? The study conducted by researchers at the University of Charleston aimed to understand how bacterial infections affect shrimp's mobility. The shrimp on a treadmill became a symbol of allegedly wasteful government spending. Allegedly wasteful spending. So yes, do you want your tax dollars going to shrimp on a treadmill? Also, there have been reports of sex changes for cockroaches. That's another one that's come out recently. Although I don't have any information on that, and certainly no video. Anyway, yeah, I mean, meanwhile, there are so many people who don't have enough food or shelter, Emily says. Yep, exactly. But we can fund shrimp on treadmills all day long. And everything else that I just mentioned. Wow. That is the insanity of our government over the last however many decades. All right, and then speaking of more craziness, I don't know, you could take this or leave it, I guess. By executive order of the president, the current president of the United States, we now have officially the Gulf of America. Today, I think, was officially Gulf of America Day. Says the U.S. Department of the Interior and the U.S. Geological Survey have officially implemented the executive order by Trump. The body along the U.S. southern coastline is now officially renamed the Gulf of America. So you'll probably start getting corrected whenever you start to say Gulf of Mexico. No one will know what you're talking about. The action was announced today by Secretary Doug Burgum of the Department of the Interior. Meanwhile, on Air Force One flying over the Gulf, this announcement from the pilot. It's currently in international waters, first time in history flying over the recently named Gulf of America, literally as he's signing it there on the plane. He's he's signing the, here it is, Gulf of America Day, 2/9/25. So we have yet another holiday to remember. I don't think I'll be remembering that one, but no disrespect intended. But in the, at least a certain area of the Gulf of what used to be Mexico down there, some of us in Tennessee, you could say, really like to go down there. I personally don't really care for the that area that much. I have family and friends that love to go down there, but a lot of people refer to it as the Redneck Riviera. So you could call it the Gulf of America if you want. I could probably also refer to it pretty fairly as the Redneck Riviera. So call it what you want. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. FBI leaks planned ICE immigration raid in L.A., and the new DHS Secretary Kristi Noem vows to prosecute. So this is super dangerous. Confidential document revealing a large-scale ICE immigration raid in L.A. was leaked, exposing the operation before it even started. So this has happened. A lot of these types of things are happening pretty often right now, being leaked by people on the inside who are secretly Democrats or maybe overtly Democrats. I don't know. Or you could certainly say Biden supporters and No Borders supporters. FBI agents were ordered to assist, but now face accusations of sabotaging the mission. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, warns that these leaks put officers' lives at risk, which is why I said it was super dangerous. DHS Secretary Noem tweeted here saying, "The FBI is so corrupt. We will work with any agency and every agency to stop leaks and prosecute these crooked deep state agents to the fullest extent of the law." I would imagine that they will probably be able to find out where these leaks are coming from. I mean, they all have a digital footprint, a digital trail, right? Yeah, Kathy says a whole lot of leaking going on. That is exactly what's going on. Hopefully those will be found out and stopped. The holes plugged in the bottom of the boat here pretty regularly. Trump has been in for what, 3 weeks? Is that right? 3 weeks tomorrow? Yeah, looks like. So anyway, I think officially the number is they've deported 11,000 illegals up to now. And I know Trump is upset that it's not more. But when you have friends like that, who needs enemies, right? When people are leaking your plans and trying to either get your agents killed or at least thwart your missions, it's pretty hard to carry out what you are intending to do, which is the whole point of the leaks to begin with. So we'll see what comes of all of that. Mike Davis says, Trump made the right call to revoke Biden's security clearance due to his cognitive failure. So Biden no longer has security clearance, as it should be, from the POTUS. It's pretty wild. And then, of course, going along with that, Jake Sullivan's security clearance has also been revoked. It's a little sad about that, I guess. All security clearances for Jake Sullivan, former national security advisor to Joe Biden, have been revoked. Sullivan is believed to be the mastermind who so botched the Ukraine situation it turned into a war. Well, it wasn't just this guy's fault. I mean, obviously it was planned as a war. Trump has also removed the security clearances from former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. So no more security clearances for Anthony Blinken. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who was one of the people that was suing Trump, has also had her security clearance revoked, and New York City District Attorney Alvin Bragg, among others. So I wonder if after these people have lost their security clearances, I wonder, like the leaks, I wonder how many times these people will still get their security clearances back behind Trump's back. You think that will happen? That kind of stuff happened a lot in the first Trump administration, so we'll see what happens. Trump is also planning to revoke the clearance of Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. So anyway, there's a little bit more info here on Hal's website, halturnerradioshow.com. And then this one too, I just thought I'd mention it, just see what you guys think about this. I haven't really looked and checked on this, and I wanted to explain just a little. But this was making the rounds, at least on Twitter it was, Twitter X. Observers saying chemtrails all stopped after U.S. aid shut down. The skies are now clear. Of course, that's what we're talking about, and that is what this guy here is saying. I'm not going to play the video because it's got a piece of music in it. I think it was an AC/DC song. I can't really play that and keep my live stream going, so we'll just we'll watch the video and I'll talk over the top of it. But as far as the article goes, you can kind of tell what he's saying in the video, and then Hal's couple of sentences here says, more than a few people are taking to social media to report clear skies since the shutdown of USAID. They report no chemtrails visible anywhere for days. In the brief social media video below, one guy is fascinated that there are actually clear skies above his house. He says he hasn't seen a sky without chemtrails for years, which, of course, I work with Mr. Dane Wigington, and he insists that we don't use that term because then if people go look up chemtrails, it just leads you straight to all of the conspiracy theory stuff and how it's not real and it's really just ice crystals and all of that. So we already know that, right? So it's geoengineering trails. You could call it a number of different things, I suppose. But anyway, we know what they're talking about. The question is, I guess I have for you is, are you seeing more or less trails in your skies? What's it look like? For me today, it was cloudy and rainy, so I can't really give you a report on what's happening here. Kathy says our skies in Napa, CA are much improved. Okay, well, good. And so what I was going to say about this was just gleaning the bit of information that I have picked up over the years after working with Dane is, and just researching this kind of stuff on my own, is that it's very possible and likely that the USAID defunding may have helped some, and it may have only helped in certain areas. We just don't know. But it won't stop. These programs are global. Not that the USAID systems aren't global, they are. But I think when the audits start to happen on the real culprit, in my opinion, which is the Pentagon, I think at that point you could really possibly shut down some of these operations, because remember the old article from years ago, Owning the Weather by 2025 was a U.S. Air Force paper that they put out, and it's still available. It's on geoengineeringwatch.org. You can find it. But yeah, I mean, this is a military operation. It always has been. It's not about the little guys who are doing, regional and local trailing operations, cloud seeding operations to affect the weather in that local area. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about global entire systems that are running, from country to country, and they're all cooperating with each other. So I personally think that although USAID might be, having that funding taken out might affect your skies, I think it's the Pentagon that we really need to watch closely. So that supposedly is coming soon as far as another Elon Musk and Doge audit. So we will see. Also, it's a very dangerous situation to be trying to audit the Pentagon. I'm not sure that the Pentagon's ever had a balanced budget or whatever they have to work with. So, I mean, there are literally trillions and trillions of dollars missing from the budget that the Pentagon gets. So if you ask me, it's a little dangerous. So hopefully those guys have some pretty good security around them. Anyway, we'll see where it goes. I just thought it was pretty interesting that people are reporting clearer skies. I think that's really good news. And that might be an alternative way to shut down some of these programs, even if unintended, even if Trump gets in there and says, well, we're going to cut this spending across the board. And it just really pretty much, when we've seen all of this crazy spending, like I just mentioned earlier from the USAID, that it's the American taxpayers, our country, who are paying for this globally, worldwide. I mean, do you think the Chinese are paying for some of this chemtrail system? and geoengineering plans and operations across the world, they might be across their own country, but I would guarantee you pretty much that it's the U.S. that's paying for it across the world. So shutting that payment down, shutting that money down, the money flow is to me a really great place to start. And who'd have thought of it? Who'd have thought that was even a possibility? So I think that is really good news if it happens. So we'll keep praying for that. What an answer to prayer it would be to have no more spraying in our skies. Yeah, that's something Mr. Dane's been working for at least 2 decades that I know about. I started working with him in 2014, and he'd already been going for 4, 5, 6 years at that point. So anyways, I just thought I would mention that, and I thought that was some pretty good news. So keep an eye out on your skies and let me know what you guys kind of run into, what you notice as far as if they're clear, if they're better, if they're about the same. So I can't really give too much of a report in my area yet, but I certainly will. I'll try to remember to do that week by week. All right, need to know.news. USAID has been funding over 6,000 journalists worldwide for massive influence. Yeah, and again, I think, when we start looking at the actual Pentagon numbers too, I think we'll find that you'll have CNN and some others on there that were, DOD and some of the other Pentagon-related agencies. To me, you'll find some more media resources there that are most likely getting funding from, again, U.S. taxpayers. According to Reporters Without Borders report, the Trump administration's freeze on foreign aid, roughly $268 million earmarked to fund media, has thrown journalism around the into chaos. USAID was funding over 6,200 journalists. Were they really journalists? Across 707 media outlets and 279 media NGOs, which includes 90% of the reportage out of Ukraine. 90% of the media in Ukraine we were funding. USAID and the CIA control foreign elections and have backed child trafficking operations transporting children across the U.S. southern border. Both Democrats and Republicans support USAID. Yeah, and it says while Secretary of State Rubio is reportedly downsizing USAID, retaining only 294 of the agency's 14,000 employees, so less than 300 out of 14,000, a little overbilling, do you think? A little bloating in the system? Wow. Critics are concerned that corrupt Republicans will misuse USAID. So that's very true. Probably already has been happening with corrupt Republicans. But they're both taking part in it. Both of these parties are. So, I mean, it's been a party. And it really is a party for them. But hopefully it's going to be shut down very soon. So, anyway, just thought I would mention that. And it's got a video embedded here. You all want to know why the Democrats are freaking out over USAID? Watch this. I won't bother playing it, but it's embedded here in the more extensive need-to-know.news article. So we'll link to this and all the other articles I mentioned tonight in the Substack, so make sure you're on that list. And Israeli Defense Minister proposes relocating Palestinians to Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Canada. That sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? So the IDF, the Israeli Defense Minister, proposes relocating the Palestinians to everywhere except their homeland. Everywhere except Gaza. Because they are planning to take it over with the help of Trump. Earlier this week, Trump shocked with his announcement that the U.S. should own Gaza and move its Palestinian population to a different country. Arab countries balked at the idea. Israeli Defense Minister Katz wrote on X that the Jewish state is working on a plan to move displaced Palestinians to Western countries like Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Canada. He claimed that Ireland, Spain, and Norway are legally obligated to welcome Palestinians from Gaza because they falsely accuse Israel over its actions in Gaza. How about that? In 2024, Ireland, Spain, and Norway formally recognized the Palestinian state. Canada has previously expressed willingness to take in residents from Gaza. Well, of course they do. Ireland and Spain have rejected this proposal. It says Republican Senator Rand Paul criticized Trump on X and wrote, "I thought we voted for America first. We have no business contemplating yet another occupation to doom our treasure and spill our soldiers' blood," which is exactly what would happen. Trump campaigned on pledges that he would avoid new foreign entanglements and forever wars. And Reuters Ipsos polling shows only 15% of Republicans supported the idea of using the U.S. military force to obtain new territory. Yeah, and that includes not only Gaza, but also Greenland and other places too. No one wants that, except obviously Trump does, and whatever other people are around him. So interesting, though, about Rand Paul kind of standing up for it. I mean, I think we should definitely not even be involved at all. They should just cut ties with Israel completely. Let them handle it. But of course, that's probably not going to happen, and they're still getting their funding, even though much of the funding to other countries is being cut out or cut down. Yeah, Bibi is thrilled. Yes. So anyway, I've got a couple of Reese reports on this. So let's take a look at one of those, and we'll be right back.
Israeli lobbyists Miriam and Sheldon Adelson have given Trump well over $100 million. And according to Trump, they have been his best customers.
You know, Miriam and Sheldon would come into the White House probably almost more than anybody outside of people that work there. And they were always after, and as soon as I'd give them something, always for Israel. As soon as I'd give them something, they'd want something else. I say, give me a couple of weeks, will you please?
On the same week, it was announced that the government just saved $1 billion. $1 billion was sent to Israel. And President Trump's first guest to the White House was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, wanted by the ICC for an ongoing genocide.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. But you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land.
When the president talks about cleaning it out, he talks about making it habitable, and this is a long-range plan. They've dug tunnels underneath there that have basically degraded the stone that you make that would form foundations. We have to examine that. You do it with borings. You do it with subterranean surveys.
How long could that take?
And this guy knows real estate.
It's years on top of years. The disposal effort in Gaza is, we estimate, 3 to 5 years just to dispose of all the things before you can look down beneath the surface of the soil, and then before you get a master plan done. And the president is intent on getting it all done correctly. So to me, it is unfair to have explained to Palestinians that they might be back in 5 years. That's just preposterous.
And he's just taking a common sense approach.
I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and make it a home.
They don't want to leave, though. Palestinians say they don't want to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. I envision a world people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent. It's a small country in terms of land. See this pen, this wonderful pen? My desk is the Middle East. And this pen, the top of the pen, that's Israel. That's not good, right? You know, that's a pretty big difference. I use that as an analogy. It's pretty accurate, actually.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
Greg Reese reporting.
It is still their home. Yes, I know that it is. That's so true. It is the Palestinians' home still. And my guess is Trump's completely wrong on all of that. I don't think they're going to leave under any circumstances. So that, this is something that has given me, at least recently, a lot of consternation, I guess. Not because anything's changed in my opinion. It's just that people who listen to this show sometimes and don't hear what I'm saying will often assume that I support anything and everything Trump 100%. And I do support a lot of what he's doing right now. I think he's doing a lot of really good work, like the whole deal with Doge and the USAID stuff that's being exposed, and the hopefully soon some of the other, audits that happen. But, he's doing a lot of good things. But this thing with Israel is such a mess. And he's standing right there, right next to Netanyahu, talking about how, it's a demolition site in Gaza and all these people are dead. Well, the guy right next to you is the one who's been murdering them and blowing up all of the buildings there. So, but for whatever reason, Trump has a blind spot about Israel. I'm not saying it's okay or good. I'm just saying he doesn't get it. I don't know why. It's like the whole thing with the and people taking them and dying, and he's, several years ago recommending that people get them, and then they are completely, they take Stashes and are completely injured for life, or they die, or whatever. So, money that's certainly part of it. I think, he wants to be the guy who, brings peace to the Middle East in this case, and I think that's never going to happen, and it's obviously been going on for many hundreds or even more years in that area, and it's just one of those situations where it, in my opinion, it's never going to get better, and he should just stay out of it, and us as a country, we should just stay out of it as well. However, it doesn't appear to be, to me at least at this point, that's what's going to happen. Hopefully that will not involve boots on the ground, but unfortunately that's probably still many more hundreds of billions of dollars in our tax money going over there. And there was a question in chat, what's going to happen with all of this money that they're finding, that Doge and so forth is finding and stopping, as far as what it's being spent. Who knows where that money is going to go. You would think it would be to pay down the debt, but no, you can't allow that. So yeah, it's really hard to say. Some of it might come back in the form of infrastructure improvements in this country, but border security and things like that. But it's really hard to say where that money would go. But yeah, stopping the payments would be first and foremost. And unfortunately, no one is stopping the payments to Israel, and they're probably going to get an increase. You heard what Netanyahu said. The Trump administration is the greatest friend to Israel that they've ever had. And that's unfortunately very true, I'm sure. And we've got another short video here coming up in a little while, with someone saying that they really believe that Trump will help to build the third temple in Jerusalem, and I think that's probably very likely as well. So we'll look at that a little bit more toward the end of the broadcast. But anyway, I wanted to bring your attention to that Reese report. I thought it was really good, and he really hits on a lot of important things. I do not support any of Trump's support of Israel and what he's doing there. I wish he would just stay out of it, but unfortunately he's not. So he doesn't listen to me, But anyway, we'll see what happens. It is quite the can of worms, isn't it? Trump threatens to cut funds to South Africa over land confiscations from white farmers. I guess you guys have known about this probably off and on for a little bit. We've talked about it on this show before, although there's not a ton of info that can be found. But This says South Africa has recently passed a law for expropriation of land, which means just stealing it, without compensation. The government claims that it will only confiscate the property if it's not being used, and there's no intention to either develop or make money from it when it poses a risk to people. So there's a little asterisk, I guess. However, the government is corrupt. Yeah, they're actually doing reverse apartheid over there right now. And I've been to South Africa. I really like it. But I wouldn't go back now. There's no way. Says Trump, who is influenced by Musk, who is from there, born in South Africa, announced that the U.S. will conduct an investigation into South Africa's land expropriation scheme and may stop sending funds to the country. Trump also said that there may be things that are much worse happening there, referencing the murders of white farmers. Politicians in the media deny the brutal executions of white farmers. They say it's not happening, but it is. But there's evidence of numerous murders each month that are not being reported. So if they don't talk about it, if they don't report on it, it can't be happening. They're probably getting our tax dollars too, the media over there. Additional evidence includes Marxist political leader Julius Malema singing Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer, which has led to violence. And I've mentioned that song and that guy before on the show. When Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, expropriated land from white farmers, the country suffered from starvation for decades and has yet to recover. Some in South Africa understand the potential consequences of killing or removing experienced farmers. Yeah. So yeah, reverse apartheid is partly what's going on over there. Not good. So a couple more videos embedded, and several actually, and more info on this article too. So that's on needtoknow.news. Technocracy.news. It begins, which is what we've been talking about earlier in this broadcast. Doge is feeding education department data into AI. So, little twist on what's going on. Technocrats have cracked into national data stores like the Department of Education, the CDC, the Labor Department, HHS, and the U.S. Treasury. If data is the new oil, then let the plundering begin. As AI sucks us dry, it will take over major functions of agencies. So, this is one of those unfortunate situations where, yeah, you have the audits going on, but in order for that to happen by a team of a relatively small group of people, AI, of course, is being involved. And that's not to say, though, that it wasn't already. So, Doge bringing in AI is one thing, that they're bringing it in to understand where the money's being spent, but that doesn't mean that AI wasn't already running in some of these systems. We just don't know. There's no way to know that. Anyway, that is one of the articles on technocracy.news. And then this one, crypto czar David Sachs sees stablecoins creating trillions in demand for treasuries. Now it becomes clear why President Trump signed an executive order banning the Federal Reserve from issuing central bank digital currency. Arch technocrat David Sachs, Trump's appointed czar of crypto and AI, is sidestepping the Fed to create a stablecoin payment system to be used in states and the Treasury. So watch for that. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. So yeah, no CBDC, but using stablecoins, creating trillions in demand for treasuries. Interesting, huh? So that's one of the top articles on technocracy.news. And then one more from that site, which we mentioned this earlier. This is another slight different twist on it. AI and Stargate, what you need to know. It says when Oracle founder Larry Ellison took to the podium to announce the Stargate project to construct another $500 billion in AI data centers around the country, his selling point was personalized designed by AI for all cancers. But of course, he didn't mention that you get Sash in the first snake you took anyway. No. In addition, he said that AI can make predictions well in advance that will get you cancer. Yeah, like if you, I could make that prediction. Wow, AI to the rescue. Get your personalized today just in case. So, yeah, that's what was happening. And of course, that is super bad news. And like Israel, this is another one of those things that to me is an absolute horrible to use one of Trump's favorite words, an absolute horrible thing to be pursuing. The whole thing with Ian Erome and his niece anyway, and then combining in AI on top of it. Wow, no thank you. No thank you. And I know many of you, if not all of you guys out there listening to this show, feel exactly the same way. I just wanted to point out that I am, not supporting Trump in this nor the Israel thing, although many of the other things, in my opinion, that he's doing is pretty good, at least, in the first 20 days or whatever that it's been. So I like to try and give him the benefit of the doubt. And unfortunately, those two things are serious bad things that we have to try and keep an eye on. But yeah, lots of other good stuff happening as well. So got a few Liberty Beacon articles I wanted to bring up tonight. Doge and the Treasury agree on measures to claw back $50 billion in payment fraud. Musk said Saturday that the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, and the U.S. Treasury Department have agreed on new anti-fraud measures aimed at preventing tens of billions of dollars in fraudulent government entitlement payments each year. In a February 8th statement shared on social media, Musk described the scale of the problem as utterly insane. Yeah, all of this is. Citing estimates that are at least $50 billion annually is being lost due to improper payments, including funds going to individuals without social security numbers or even temporary ID numbers. Musk, who leads Doge, has been designated a special government employee by President Trump, revealed in the Post that Treasury officials estimated that $100 billion in annual entitlement payments may be going to individuals without verifiable identification. In a discussion with Treasury personnel, Musk said he asked for an estimate of how much of that is obvious and unequivocal fraud, and the consensus was that at least half, $50 billion per year, or around $1 billion per week, is fraudulent, which is about what they discovered as well with the whole USAID thing. About $1 billion per week they're wasting on all of these crazy programs. Yeah, must be addressed immediately because it's utterly insane. So anyway, hopefully some answers will be found there. Senator Kim, this was kind of making the rounds earlier on Twitter X as well, the video of this. The Dems are ready to shut down the government over Trump's actions. Yeah, they don't want all of their criminality to be found out, uncovered, and the payments stopped on, which is exactly what's going on. Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat from New Jersey, said Sunday on Meet the Depressed that the Democrats are considering not helping the Trump administration fund the government. Kim said in a few weeks, the Republicans are going to try to figure out how they move forward, and they have for the last 2 years needed Democrat votes for every single continuing resolution, and they should not count on that at this time. So it sounds like a threat. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. If they shut down the government, it would be okay with me. Probably is with many of you guys as well. Anyway, yeah, that's what they're threatening. But of course, I don't think Trump's going to let that stop what they're doing. I mean, obviously they were doing exactly what Trump was elected to do, and he's formed the teams to do it. I mean, he was voted in, and his team called Doge is exactly what was, legal and exactly what people wanted. So we'll see where it goes. I think the Democrats are just running scared at this point. USAID funding over 6,000 journalists worldwide across nearly 1,000 platforms. We mentioned this a little bit ago. Anyway, this is referencing a Zero Hedge article. Yeah, let's see. It was Politico, I know, was one of the media companies. I'm not sure if CNN was in that list, but BBC certainly was, and Reuters, and I mentioned Politico, and several others. It says, note the recurring use of the term independent media, and we've got the meme from Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. So anyway, there is a little bit more info on this article as well. Very similar to the other one that I already showed you guys tonight. Anyway, Liberty Beacon VA Secretary Doug Collins says customer service is top priority for the agency. How about that? U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Doug Collins is laying out his plan for the nation's largest integrated health system with a heavy focus on customer service and addressing homelessness. How about that? The U.S. Senate confirmed Collins, a 58-year-old Iraq War veteran, as the new Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary by a 77-23 vote on Tuesday. So, and then he's saying that Collins said that Trump gave him his simple instructions, which is just simply take great care of America's veterans, whatever that means. So I guess he's allowed to define that. But I think that's really good. I mean, we'll see where it goes. But if you're a veteran out there, thank you for your service. And hopefully you will be getting better, customer service, if you want to call it that, from the VA. So I know several people that are veterans who would definitely appreciate that, I'm sure. Netanyahu Trump Gaza proposal, the first fresh idea in years. Yeah, well, we've shown on this show the was it Gaza 2035 or something like that, where they have the intent to basically turn Gaza into a smart city. You could call it a Riviera if you wanted to, but it's kind of look like a futuristic smart city type thing, probably very similar to what they're already going to plan to build in Lahaina, and another one in Pacific Palisades in LA, but also the area in Chile where the fires were as well. So it's probably going to be one of these smart cities is my guess. We'll see where it goes, but we kind of touched on that earlier, so we won't go into that again tonight, but kind of crazy. And then I mentioned the part one of this Candace Owens episode on Macron and Brigitte, and I just wanted to mention this because part 1, 2, and 3 are all here. So it's all linked. Of course, you can find her on YouTube if you're not already following with what she's doing, but this is more about Macron's and how this whole thing with Brigitte being a man is really becoming known and becoming, starting to unfold even more and more. So good work on what Candace Owens is doing. I think that's good that that's coming out. Of course, the Macrons don't really like it too much, do they? Apple ordered to provide the UK government access to all user data in the cloud. So if you live in the UK and you use any Apple products, just beware. It says the Washington Post reported Friday that the United Kingdom's deep state has demanded that Apple create a backdoor for them to retrieve all the content any Apple user worldwide has uploaded into the cloud, what would be an unprecedented erosion of online privacy and civil liberties. Yeah, that's exactly right. And then I would say to that they already had the backdoor built in for China. So it wouldn't really make much sense to me that this is really that much out of the ordinary. I think Apple's already working with the Chinese government, so what's another one here? Citing anonymous sources, the Post reported that the British government's undisclosed order was issued last month. It reportedly requires Apple to give officials blanket capability to view fully encrypted material. So anyway, something to keep in mind, but of course, who is surprised by any of that? I'm certainly not. But, it's definitely very concerning, obviously. Not just privacy, but just all of the data they have access to. And, of course, we'll be running AI on all of that as well. They're dropping like flies. Another fake news legend gets axed. Yeah. You guys probably have heard about this. It says you'd think that another Trump term would be great news for the fake news media, right? After all, back in 2016, they feasted on stage 5 TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, churning out endless Trump hate stories. Well, they're still doing that. The Russia hoax, sham impeachments, you name it. They pushed the Trump is evil narrative, and for a while it worked. Ratings were through the roof. But these days, that gravy train has gone off the rails. Thankfully, Americans have woken up. They see the regime-run media for what it is. Propaganda. It turns out Trump was never the second coming of Hitler and some raging racist. He was just an outsider who took on our corrupt, bloated, and downright evil government, and this time around the people re-elected him in a landslide, popular vote, and all. As Musk keeps saying, and he's right, we the people are the media now. We don't rely on regime-run legacy hacks. We turn to social media, and the ratings prove it. So it goes into that. And then, of course, they're talking about Jim Acosta from CNN getting the axe. So it says now the media bigwigs are sweating and losing their positions faster than you can say fake news. One of the best moments was watching the iconic TDS sufferer Jim Acosta get the boot. This guy pulled every fake news stunt in the book to land his own show, only for it to flop and take his career down with it. Hilarious and perfectly fitting. So Jim Acosta is no longer at CNN, but no one will know because no one watches it. Anyway, that's a Revolver article. And then this one as well. Trump's using a clever trick to break the deep state's massive command and control system. So if you're anti-Trump, you probably wouldn't really like some of the self-produced articles on Revolver.news because they're very pro-Trump. And, the Gateway Pundit's that way as well. So if you can recognize it ahead of time, then you can be warned so that you don't also yourself suffer from TDS. We wouldn't want that, would we? To whatever degree. Even if it's not TDS, if it's just some concerns you have about Trump, which I have my own, and I've tried to be as open about that as possible. There's still some good information on many of these articles. So this is talking about breaking the deep state's massive command and control system, and mostly it's about defunding some of these deep state agencies. So anyway, I'll let you guys read that if you're interested. That's one of the Revolver articles. And then one other one that is one of their own articles that they produced. Activist judge who just blocked Doge also threw a pro-life grandma in prison. Here we go again. Another radical activist judge using the courts to protect government corruption and punish regular Americans. This time it's Judge Colleen Kolar Kotelly. That's a lot of K's in that name. A Bill Clinton appointee who just blocked Doge from exposing even more fraud in their bloated, unaccountable government. So those three words right there are very important. That's exactly what we have, and that is exactly why the Democrats want to leave everything alone. It's a bloated, unaccountable government. Federal judge orders limited Doge access to sensitive Treasury Department payment system records. So I don't think this is really going to even slow down what Musk and his team are doing. But obviously they're running for the hills here because all of their money laundering schemes are being exposed. So anyway, we will see. We will see where all that goes. But that's the Revolver article there. And then MSN, which was also an article linked from Revolver. Trump removes Anthony Blinken and Letitia James, as well as Alvin Bragg's security clearances, which I mentioned that earlier tonight off of Hal's site. But there's another article here on that. And then this one, too, from the National Pulse. Trump is right to shutter the USAID and its founder. JFK would likely agree. Yeah, it's impossible to say all foreign aid, especially that which passes through the Kennedy era United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is wasted, but it is equally impossible to assess that a majority of foreign aid works. Therein lies the rub for the U.S. taxpayer and the moral imperative for the Doge group to go about fisking USAID as one of its first orders of business. Without repeated and loud evidence and exemplified assurances that their lives and the lives of others are being made better, safer, and freer as a result of their coercive investment, there exists no ethical justification for giving away $50 billion or so a year. Yeah, again, $1 billion a week. So insane. Nor was it ever envisioned as such an entity, with its earliest advocates, such as JFK, oft falsely invoked by the legacy media, acknowledging that America's 1960s aid efforts were meant to usher in a decade of development. It has now been 6.4 decades, and reading JFK's letter to Congress on the subject from March of 61, it's easy to see how he would likely agree with President Trump on streamlining America's soft power efforts. So yeah, that's anyway, more information here on this and how it's a little bit more bloated and unaccountable than it was originally. And of course, we all know that JFK wouldn't have wanted that. So, but that's what it is. Musk is right about USAID. So this is an article on The Spectator. The Spectator World, it says, I suspect few people outside Washington Nexus have ever even heard of the USAID, United States Agency for International Development, until recently. Yet this independent agency manages to budget nearly $50 billion, which is more than the CIA and the State Department combined. So that is just the preview, and I guess you probably have to be a subscriber on this particular website, but it's called The Spectator, thespectator.com. And then I found this one too. This was something I just happened across in my findings. This is a local Nashville affiliate. I think this is the NBC affiliate. But I thought this article was kind of interesting in just more information as to where we are here in this process of getting some of our freedoms back, hopefully, as far as censorship goes. Former Nashville fireman awarded nearly $1.8 million in civil rights case following a demotion from his social media posts. The attorney for former Nashville firefighter Tracy Turner has announced a victory in his civil case against Metro government, which is Metro Nashville here in Davidson County. Turner, who was demoted following posts that he made on his personal Facebook page, was awarded nearly $1.8 million by a federal jury on Friday. His attorney says that the $1.775 million in damages comes from the retaliation against Turner based on his exercise of free speech. He was demoted from his position as captain to the lowest rank in the department based on his political comments regarding such issues as violent protests by Black Lives Matter and the COVID-19 mask mandate, as well as global warming. So interesting, huh? The court found that Turner was within his First Amendment right of free speech with his Facebook comments. This is an important vindication of a public employee's freedom to exercise their right of free speech. We should never tolerate government retaliation against an employee for speaking out on matters of inherent public concern. Yeah, so that's all in response. That was from a federal case. A federal jury awarded him the 1.8, right? Well, in March of 2024, so just last year, Metro Council voted to refuse a proposed settlement with Turner for what he posted on social media in 2020. The council voted 31-0 with 3 abstentions to reject the settlement to pay him $105,000 after he filed a lawsuit against the city after being demoted. And they opted to not pay him. So just a year ago, they said, no, we're not going to give you $105,000 to settle your case. And so he smacks him down with a federal case here and takes him to court and wins $1.8 million instead of the $105,000 that they could have settled with him for. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, pretty wild. And then we mentioned the Super Bowl and the real Super Bowl earlier, the Patriots versus the Steelers, meaning Stealers. Well, this is the other Super Bowl that I guess was happening tonight, apparently. The Eagles won and the Chiefs lost. Says worst Super Bowl in history, and Trump walks out. So I clicked on that earlier just to see what's going on. I guess he was in favor of the Chiefs, Kansas City, and they were losing really bad, and he left at some point during the third quarter. So I don't know. I didn't really see all of the stuff. You know, you always hear about the satanic, halftime rituals and stuff that happen. I didn't really see any of that. I think it was a rapper who was the halftime show. I thought it was kind of funny that it said Taylor Swift was booed mercilessly whenever she was shown on the Jumbotron. So that was funny. And I guess they showed Trump on the Jumbotron as well, and of course people applauded. Heart attacks rise during the game. That's interesting. I wonder why. Wonder what will cause that. And sticker shock, they're talking about people spending $20 for a beer, $60 for a cocktail, and $100 for a salad at the Super Bowl. So you think that those people must have, I guess those businesses there must have had, you could say, a captive audience, maybe. So, yeah. Pretty funny. So I guess the Super Bowl's over, and we'll have to do it all again next year. And probably be the Chiefs again next year. We'll see. So anyway, and then got a few RT articles pulled up here. Trump's vision for Palestine is no Palestinians. The U.S. president has kicked off his new term with another peace initiative that is really just a gift for Israel. So we covered this earlier, and I thought I would point out that is there if you guys want to check it out, RT.com. Yeah, Trump's vision for Palestine, no Palestinians. Very true. Zelensky offers new excuse for canceling elections. The voting narrative is only peddled by the Russians that supposedly want to destabilize Ukraine. So, yeah, he's been a dictator since May or so of last year. Probably says in this article. But yeah, he's saying that it's the Russians. It's always the Russians. They want to destabilize Ukraine by removing him. By having I guess he knows then, just by that admission, I guess he knows he would lose if there were an election. So you can't have an election, obviously. Holding a vote amid the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine would spell a disaster for Kiev for a large number of reasons, ranging from popular disapproval to literally losing its armed forces. Yeah, they've all been blown up and shot and killed. Zelensky claimed this week. Earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy for the Ukraine conflict, Kellogg, that's another very concerning person, I think, that he's appointed, stated that Washington would like to see Kiev holding presidential and parliamentary votes before the end of the year. Zelensky had previously suspended both elections indefinitely, citing the martial law. Elections in Ukraine at a time like this would only benefit Russia, because he knows he would lose. The Ukrainian leader claimed in an interview with the, I guess, local news, who we found out was completely, sponsored and funded by the U.S. taxpayers. The topic of elections has been brought up by the Russians, he stated. Anyway, that's on RT. And then this one, too. This is, kind of mentioned this a little bit ago. Judge puts the brakes on the U.S. aid purge. Order comes from agencies. More than 2,000 employees fight to prevent it from being shut down. Yeah, they were literally up there removing the letters off the front of the building earlier. I've got another picture of that on my Twitter account. Thought that was pretty wild. So yeah, it looks like it's getting shut down. Musk calls for closure of the U.S. state media. Head of Doge has said that Radio Free Europe and Voice of America are essentially radical left crazy people talking to themselves, which he does a really good job of boiling things down, and that's probably exactly what's going on. I personally have never listened to either one. But I think it was Carrie Lake that was put in charge of the Voice of America, so I'm not real sure where that would, I guess that would leave her out of a job if they shut it down. Says the Voice of America and the Radio Free Europe was set up in 1950 to spread pro-American and anti-Soviet propaganda in Europe. Was initially operated by the CIA. Wow. Voice of America was established in the 40s to counter Nazi propaganda and shifted its focus to the Soviet Union in 1947. It continues to be funded by the U.S. Congress by us. And its management is directly controlled by the U.S. government. U.S. Agency for Global Media, which oversees both of them, is a federal agency. So, again, more money being burned. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah, that's what, at least the Voice of America part was what Carrie Lake had been put in charge of. She's not mentioned in this article, but I do know that was what her new gig was. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Hopefully that will get shut down. Hate to see her out of a job, but she can probably find another one. Trudeau warns Trump's threat to annex Canada is the real thing. Canada, the Canadian PM, Tampon Trudeau, as we call him on this show, believes that the U.S. president wants the country's mineral resources. And it says outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. Yeah, he's not really leaving anywhere. Have you noticed that? He said he was going to retire some weeks back, and yet there he is. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he just said that so that it would be reported that he's leaving, so everybody can be, kind of let their guard down and be like, oh, well, he's outgoing. But I don't think he's actually going to be leaving, do you? Anyway, it says outgoing Canadian PM has been caught on a hot mic telling businessmen that Trump is not joking when he talks about absorbing Canada. Trump reiterated his desire to make Canada our 51st state when he spoke to journalists in the Oval Office earlier this week. Quote, "I would love to see that. Some people say that would be a long shot. If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they would become a state," he claimed. I don't know about that. What do you guys think? U.S. President, Canadian PM discussed the hiccups in their relations during 2 phone calls on Monday. Yeah, I think he's backed down a little bit on some of the tariffs. Not sure if that's brought up here or not. Yeah, here it is. In early February, Trump imposed 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on imports from China, citing concerns over illegal immigration and drug trafficking. Ottawa vowed to retaliate by slapping equivalent duties on U.S. goods. However, Trump decided to postpone the introduction of tariffs on the 2 neighboring countries for 30 days in return for promises by both governments to strengthen border security. So yeah, apparently both countries are going to put some of their own people on the border to protect it. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, who knows if that's what's really going to happen, but that's what's being talked about. So therefore, the tariffs on Mexico and Canada are at least on hold. They're paused being they're being paused for the moment. So again, we'll see what happens. DOJ to audit the Pentagon. Mentioned this a little bit ago. U.S. Departments of Defense and Education are next in line for budget reviews. Trump has confirmed. Musk heads up the DOJ, Department of Government Efficiency, has been tasked with revising federal spending and has his sights set on the Pentagon and the Department of Education. So I vote that they, at least with the Department of Education, that they audit it and shut it down. What do you guys think? Audit it and shut it down. So, yep. And anyway, this is just about the Pentagon aspect of this. So again, this is something where maybe they'll find some line items there of many millions, or if not billions, being spent on the worldwide geoengineering programs. I think that is where that type of thing would likely be found. And I do also think that they'll be finding some other media-related things in here too. Perhaps CNN and some of the others that were weaponized against the U.S. population. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. It says, I've instructed him, meaning Musk, to check out education and to check out the Pentagon, which is the military. And sadly, you'll find some things that are pretty bad, but I don't think proportionally you're going to see anything like we just saw, Trump said, highlighting that DOJ would find a lot, taking into account how bad it was with what we just saw. So that was talking specifically about USAID. I don't know. I think the Pentagon will be far worse because you're dealing with bigger numbers, trillions of dollars, right? That's what they were supposedly looking for when 9/11 happened. Literally, the missile goes flying into the rooms and explodes in the Pentagon there when they were researching where the however many trillions of dollars were missing, just reported the day before. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be even far larger numbers, I would think, versus USAID. People's Voice headlines. People's Voice, thepeoplesvoice.tv. WikiLeaks reveals USAID funds shadowy NGO running global news propaganda matrix, which we've mentioned several times tonight. Daily Wire reporter, you guys probably heard the Daily Wire, arrested on sickening array of child rape charges. How about that? Daily Wire. And you guys probably remember who heads that up. 17 state attorneys general joined forces to bring Fauci to justice as Biden's pardon unravels. 17 state attorneys generals. Trump says he won't deport Prince Harry and says that he has enough problems with his wife. That's pretty funny. Meaning, what's her name? I forget her name already. But he's not going to deport Prince Harry. And then organizations linked to Soros received hundreds of millions of dollars from USAID. Yep. Got the old George Soros connection all the time with USAID. Medicare and Medicaid wasted $100 billion of taxpayer money, says Musk. Trump administration calls Biden an embarrassment to the U.S. Trump has described his predecessor Biden as an embarrassment to the U.S. Trump accused Biden of mismanaging the Ukraine conflict. Democrats vowed to launch J6 style raids on Doge employees. So they want to start it all over again, except with the guys helping Musk. So they've already doxed some of those guys, and they're real young. They're real young people. I don't know if they're all guys, but I'm just saying they're young people, and the Democrats want to tar and feather them. Basically, they want to dox them all and then have them raided and jailed for doing their job. Obama judge blocks Doge from uncovering Democrat fraud. Iran vows to assassinate President Trump. According to this. Now, who knows? I sort of doubt it, but this is being talked about at least on this particular article on People's Voice. And then Information Liberation. Musk shares photo appearing to show golden pager gift from Netanyahu on Trump's desk. So there it is. That's the golden pager. Do you guys know about that? Let me see if I can find a close-up of it. Here it is. You can kind of see it here. It's in the middle of this chunk of wood. I'm not exactly sure what the piece of wood exactly signifies, but it says, "To President Donald J. Trump, our greatest friend and ally, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu." So the golden pager, we know what the pagers did. They exploded. Press with both hands, it says. So hopefully no one in the Oval Office will try to press the buttons with both hands. Photo shows the golden pager Netanyahu gifted Trump in reference to the attack on Hezbollah terrorists, cartoonishly demented and insane. Imagine not understanding this as a threat. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Could you, I mean, he's saying what a great friend he is, and yet he basically hands him an explosive that may or may not work. It probably doesn't detonate, but then again, it's Netanyahu we're talking about. It might. We just don't know. So anyway, that's what this is about. Musk says he will rehire the Doge whiz kid who resigned over the edgy tweets. 25-year-old guy who resigned after the Wall Street Journal doxed him and revealed he posted edgy tweets. Edgy tweets. Yeah. And what do the Democrats do? They are literally trafficking little kids and women and supporting everything evil. And this guy had a few edgy tweets. Elon Musk asked the public if he should bring back the Doge whiz kid, which I think that was overwhelmingly yes. Israel working to move Palestinians to Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Canada, which we talked about that earlier. I don't think they're going anywhere. And then talking more about the golden pager. Let's look at this one. This is one of the Anna Mahalcia posts on Substack talking about smart dust. This is an article I found earlier today that I thought was worth mentioning. Smart dust, the key to fourth industrial revolution. It's everywhere, monitoring everything: healthcare, banking, weather, food, military application, and humans. And then here is a patent from 2022 talking about smart dust usage. Dr. Staninger sent her, Dr. Anna here, some information on smart dust. So I wanted to write an update on how this technology is the basis for the fourth industrial revolution and the Internet of Bodies, the biosurveillance grid. It can be inhaled and give environmental data to a computing network. Yeah, I think this is what you would call edge computing, at least to some degree. Sensors in the environment can give data, environmental data, to a computing network. Environmental data just means the environment that the smart dust is in. I think that's what that's talking about. It's being used in healthcare, for drug delivery, for biometric authentication by banks, for military surveillance of combat zones and civilians, for Internet of Bodies. It's in food, and it's sprayed for meteorological purposes, and we just happen to inhale it. It is the invisible microsensor grid network everywhere. Here's an article from 2010 from CNN. So don't you know that is probably, most likely, also part of the geoengineering programs being sprayed on us and everywhere. Pretty much a guarantee. So this is a pretty long article, but it's certainly available. You can look at it for free. There's probably an interview, I'm betting, as well. But this is on Dr. Mahalsia's Substack, which, again, we'll link to these articles in the Substack post that I put out on Tuesday. You're probably already on the list, but if you're not, make sure you are, and then you'll get those links. From Slay News, Bill Gates says, we will not need humans for most things. Well, again, let's start with him. Let's start with him, not needing him for anything. Microsoft co-founder Gates has gloated that we will soon have little use for human beings thanks to advancements in AI. According to Gates, humans will soon not be needed for most things. Gates made gloating remarks while grinning from ear to ear and rubbing his hands together during an interview on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. While Gates appeared to revel in the idea of humans being replaced by machines, he admitted that people may still be required for entertainment purposes, such as sports. So you're only good for sports. We won't want to watch computers play baseball, he says. Well, he might. Anyway, so I vote he starts with himself if he wants to work himself out of the equation of humanity. A third of all U.S. states are now exploring Bitcoin and crypto for public funds. This is a Zero Hedge article. I wouldn't have thought it'd be that many, but I guess because Trump's out there talking about it. A growing wave of U.S. states are pursuing legislation to establish strategic Bitcoin reserves and enable crypto investments for public funds, opening a shift in state-level fiscal policy. Out of 50 states, 16 have ongoing legislative considerations in varying statuses. Utah stands out as the state closest to a potential implementation. So for you folks who live in Utah, watch out. I guess the Bitcoin and crypto is being heavily talked about there as far as some of the state funding and stuff. And then Daily Mail article, stunning number of federal workers are taking Trump's buyout offer has been revealed. It says the number of federal workers taking his buyout is somewhere around 65,000 government workers. It means that just over 3% of the 2 million people working for the government. So 3% is taking a buyout so far. Meanwhile, Trump laid out an 8-point plan for all the tax provisions that he wants included in a big MAGA bill. Trump met with Japanese Prime Minister at the White House, and the pair held a joint press conference where the PM pledged to deliver a $1 trillion investment into the United States. $1 trillion investment from Japan into the U.S. So, wow. Who knows what that is exactly? 65,000 federal workers have now opted to take Trump's buyout deal. It's a far cry from the administration's goal. So, yeah, there's not as many people as they had hoped. Federal judge temporarily blocked the February 6th deadline to take the so-called fork in the road after Thursday afternoon after the AFGE union representing hundreds of thousands of federal workers and other groups sued. So, yes, there is a union for federal workers. Another hearing is set for Monday to hear further arguments on the issue. Even with 65,000 workers taking the deal, it's still just over 3% of the 2 million federal workers being given the offer. So, yeah, probably need to get that number up a little bit higher, huh? So that's a Daily Mail article. And then Gateway Pundit, Medicare and Medicaid wasted $100 billion of taxpayer money. Mentioned this earlier. So, yep, that's what they do. That's what they do. This Daily Mail article as well, all the shocking ways USAID spent your money. I was looking for, I kind of went over that at the very beginning of the show if you missed it, but I was looking for some bullet points on some of the things that were mentioned where the money was wasted. And this article mentions some of the same things, but also a few extras. You can see where our tax dollars were going. HIV research about transgenders, millions to COVID lab in China, and Serbian LGBT group, of course. They get all of our money. And so on and so on. Electric vehicles in Vietnam. trans care clinics, and LGBTQ initiatives globally. Operas in Colombia, I think I mentioned that one. Peruvian trans comic books, and efforts to expand atheism abroad. Wow. They spent $500,000 to expand atheism in Nepal. Atheism in Nepal. Wow. So that's just a few things. And then, of course, we had the longer list at the beginning of the show. So anyway, and then Gateway Pundit article, perplexed NATO countries secretly discussing sending troops to Greenland as Trump considers using U.S. military force to take over the world's largest island. I don't know that he would do that. I certainly hope not. But how about that? NATO countries talking about sending forces, which of course, NATO, U.S. is NATO. So what troops would they be sending? Europe is still reeling from the startling, surprising move by Trump to deploy a diplomatic offensive coupled with economic sanction threats to purchase or otherwise seize the Danish island of Greenland. Once Trump refused to rule out using the military to take control of the Arctic territory, there was widespread panic, and the Denmark kingdom reportedly went into crisis mode. Now it arises that some NATO countries are secretly discussing deploying troops to Greenland after Trump declared that it would be an unfriendly act for Copenhagen to refuse to give up the island. Germany was allegedly among the many European allies in these informal talks. So wonder what the story is with that. I mean, maybe it's resources. That was kind of the first thing that came to mind. Strategic location, I suppose. It's between us and Russia, if you look at it that way. But who knows? Anyway, yeah, Greenland's still apparently in the talks here, which would be not good. Denmark ready to allow the U.S. to expand its military presence on Greenland. Well, I don't think they were mentioned. They probably weren't really given an offer that they could refuse, if you know what I mean. U.S. Treasury pays $100 billion annually to unknown recipients. I mentioned this one a little bit ago. Another article about Doge and the $100 billion that's vanished, being paid to people without social security numbers or temporary ID numbers. That's because it's called money laundering. Okay, and then this one, this is a video I came across. I won't bother playing it tonight, but you guys can check this out if you want. It's about not only the helicopter and airplane crash in D.C., but it's talking about just in general all these plane crashes and that they are not accidents. So that's what they're discussing in this article or in this video. I thought it was pretty good. I watched it earlier today. Planes are falling from the sky and we're not buying it, it says. Plane crash psyop. So, and then the name of my broadcast last week was talking about Operation Northwoods, where we kind of went into that a little bit last week. So could this be Northwoods 2.0? And they kind of touch on some of those same things, talking about all the various plane crashes that have happened just in the last few weeks, really, since Trump got in. And they had a very good discussion on why they think it's happening. And it's a show called Shots Fired. Deanna Lorraine, I guess is her name. Anyways, it was good and would definitely recommend watching that. It's not too long. Recent aviation disasters cause fears about the safety of flying. This is actually one thing that they kind of discussed. They're trying to gin up the fear of flying like they did during COVID, Is this like another step in that equation? The spate of recent aviation disasters and close calls have people worried about the safety of flying. The mid-air collision that killed 67 near Washington, the fiery plane crash in Philly, and now a missing plane in Alaska, which that's been found, by the way, are only the most high-profile disasters. There was also a Japanese airlines plane that clipped a parked Delta plane while it was taxiing at the Seattle airport earlier this week, and a United Airlines plane caught fire during takeoff. We mentioned that last week in Houston. And then it says, not even to mention the security concerns that arose after stowaways were found inside the wheel wells of two planes and aboard two other flights. Don't forget about the time that a passenger opened an emergency exit door on a plane while it was taxiing for takeoff in Boston. Yeah, and there was another one just in the last few days. I saw it on, I think it was on Twitter, where it was just a still shot, not a video, but a guy had tried to punch out, using his fist, tried to punch out the window that he was sitting in. And the passengers on the plane all got together and basically wrestled him to the ground and used their shoelaces to tie him. So they contained him. So I don't know if he was having some sort of breakdown or what was going on, but there's so many crazy things going on with flying these days. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Black Hawk helicopter's shocking aviation blunder moments before crashing into a plane in D.C. is confirmed in new NTSB report. So this is kind of pointing the finger at the female captain here, who we mentioned last week. And remember, the powers that be completely erased all of her social media. They took that down everywhere. So that's kind of interesting, I think. It says the 28-year-old Captain Rebecca Lobach, on a routine training exercise, a helicopter was flying at 300 feet, but the maximum altitude permitted for choppers in the area is 200 feet. She was at 300. So they're kind of calling this her fault, although who knows? This is something actually that was discussed on this video here. They kind of were saying, well, there may be more to it than the whole DEI thing, or she was obviously qualified. She had a lot of experience, but perhaps it wasn't what we're being told. And they were alluding to, in this video, they were alluding to the fact that there was a really good chance that these, well, not the plane, but the helicopter was overtaken. The control of it was overtaken, which is something that I mentioned as well. And remotely controlled, because it looks like, and they show the path here in this video, it looks like the helicopter specifically goes out of its way to crash into the plane. So, I mean, no pilot would do that. Even one that wanted to commit suicide, you wouldn't think would do that. So, why would she, if it was her, why would she take not only her colleagues with her, but also the entire plane load of passengers? This is all stuff that was discussed in this video. But I think there's a lot to that as far as the remote control ability of those Blackhawks. So pretty interesting. So there's a Daily Mail article about this, but it's really kind of blaming her for it. Although, who knows? NTSB conflicting altimeter data retrieved after mid-air collision near Washington. So this is more info on the same story. Talking about the black boxes, there were some questions about that. I know. It says the crew had a verbal reaction. One data recorder of sound from the cockpit indicated the airplane beginning to increase its pitch. Sounds of impact were audible about 1 second later, followed by the end of the recording. So it was tracking it clear up till the end. The other black box captured flight data from the jet. So I guess they did find both boxes. So that's good. That always reminds me of the old, I guess you could call it a joke. It was Stephen Wright. Remember him from the 80s? He always kind of jokingly said that, you know, if the black boxes are what survives a plane crash, why didn't they just make the whole airplane out of the black box? The whole airplane should be the black box. And that does kind of make sense to me. In this case, helicopters as well. All right, and then I found this interesting post on X. President Trump said on Tuesday, if Iran carries out his assassination, advisors will ensure the country is, quote, obliterated. And then the follow-up here from this guy's post says the Mossad is listening and making their plans. If all Israel needs is a dead Trump to justify Iran's destruction, then consider it done. Iran has nothing to gain by Trump's assassination. Remember, I said earlier when I saw that headline on the People's Voice that they're threatening. They don't have any reason to want Trump dead. So this is all propaganda. So part of the whole PSYOP thing that the Mossad and CIA put out. Iran has nothing to gain by Trump's assassination, and America has nothing to gain by Iran being obliterated. But these bloodthirsty warmongering you-know-whos have made it clear that they will stop at nothing to start yet another war and murder millions of the Goyim. So, yeah. Thought that was an interesting tweet. And, Trump, once again, Trump seems to be walking headfirst with both eyes wide open right into this whole thing. Now, let's hope nothing happens. Let's hope, if it was God that saved him during the assassination attempts, which I personally believe it was, then, maybe God will save him from himself by doing something stupid. So, I don't know. Pretty interesting, though, that he's out there saying that, we should obliterate Iran if something happens to him because it'll be Iran's fault. I mean, that just walks right into Mossad and Israel's Christmas list. That's exactly what they would want if they celebrated Christmas. USAID absorbed into State Department under Rubio after the Doge crusade. The USAID will be merged into the State Department, and it will have cuts in its workforce, but it will remain a humanitarian aid entity. Which, we can see that. We could see that aspect of it, but not for all of the other crazy funding that they've had. There's so many things that you can't even just mention one thing and have people know what you're talking about. Like, if I talk about the shrimp on treadmills, I mentioned that earlier, but in this case, there was so much of this crazy funding that was being wasted. There's no really one that's way worse than all the others. They were all incredibly bad. So you just have to say USAID and just know that it's all just total wasteful spending and money laundering. Zelensky admits that half of U.S. aid to Ukraine is missing, receiving about $75 billion out of the $177 billion that was allocated. I don't know where all this money is, he said. Well, I don't tend to believe Zelensky on anything much, but I do think he's probably telling the truth about this. So I don't know. My guess is it all went to offshore accounts. That's where it always ends up. And back to the Democrat Party. I do think he's probably telling the truth about this. He probably doesn't know where it all went. And who knows if the $75 billion that they got in Ukraine, we know they were buying mansions, houses in Switzerland and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, American tax dollars at work. You're welcome. All right, and then Singularity Hub article I found. I thought this was interesting and scary. This autonomous drone can track humans through dense forests at high speed. Drones that fly themselves and don't crash are improving fast. So that's not good. Autonomous drones could revolutionize a wide range of industries. Now scientists have designed a drone that can weave through dense forests, dodge thin power lines in dim lighting, and even track a jogging human. So, sounds like a mini movie. Sounds like mini movies and TV shows out there. Rapid improvements in sensor technology and artificial intelligence are making it increasingly feasible for drones to fly themselves, but autonomous drones remain far from foolproof, which has restricted their use to low-risk situations such as delivering food in well-organized cities. Yeah, well-organized ones. Name one. If the technology is ever to have an impact in domains like search and rescue, sports, or even warfare, which drones are being used like crazy over in Ukraine. They're doing a lot of stuff with drones over there. I mean, we've seen footage. They put, it's on Hal's website often, where they're using drones to literally chemically bomb people and blow things up and all kinds of stuff. So it's already being used in war situations. Small drones need to become more maneuverable and more reliable. That prompted researchers from the University of Hong Kong to develop a new micro air vehicle, or MAV, micro air vehicle, that can navigate challenging environments at speed. They're named Super. Combines LiDAR technology with a unique two-trajectory navigation system to balance safety and speed. In real-world tests, it outperformed commercial drones in both tracking and collision avoidance, while flying at more than 20 meters per second, which is about 45 miles per hour. Wow. That is fast. So LiDAR equipped. Anyway, that's on Singularity Hub. Very futuristic and dystopian, if you ask me. And then woman confronts chemtrail pilots with absolute proof of heavy metal contamination under flight paths. So how about that? Again, another video. USAID installed Al-Qaeda in Syria. I've got the logo circled with little boxes around it. USAID on the tent back there behind them. USAID funded fake impeachment of Donald Trump in 2019. How about that? All this stuff is coming out. It reminds me of the scripture of all truth coming out, that the truth will be known, and that these lies are all going to be uncovered. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing. Bishop who rebuked Trump's immigration policies pocketed $53 million. $53 million in taxpayers' money. Wow. But of course, why wouldn't she? Makes sense. So there's quite a bit here on ForbiddenKnowledgeTV.net. And then Leo Hohmann's, two newest articles. Trump, the disruptor, moves quickly to burn down the system, but will disruption turn into chaos? Will closing the Department of Education, USAID, and other agencies actually lead to less government intrusion? Or will they be replaced by something more sinister? So that is the question, isn't it? When you're getting AI involved and all this other stuff. Billionaire globalist technocrat Bill Gates is in panic mode, making the rounds in the corporate media to push back against Musk's latest cost-cutting move, folding USAID into the State Department. But is Gates, who seems to have President Trump's ear, really all that worried? Illegal alien lived in U.S. for 20 years as a sexual predator who used stolen ID to vote, buy guns, and live a comfortable life. How many more just like him are living in America and protesting mass deportation efforts? Yep, that's a good question. So that is the two most recent articles on Leo's site. And then his Substack, Trump, the disruptor, moves with blinding speed. So that's kind of the same thing, I guess. The lies refugees, settlers tell about their lucrative business. And then talking about AI and Stargate and all that stuff. So Leo Hohmann's Substack, and then leohohmann.com is what we were just looking at there. And then top headlines, a few of them on Natural News. RFK Jr. vindicated. Maine Superior Court denies motion to dismiss. Upholds Kennedy's right to pursue libel case. Google backtracks on AI ethics pledge. Sparks outrage over weapons and surveillance use. Yeah, it's turned around its request now. It's saying, no, it's fine. They're going to use it for AI and weapons. Meaning Google's AI. First day it said they're not going to. Remember, they also used to say, don't be evil. But of course, they're one of the most evil companies around. USAID scandal, funding fake news and fueling the progressive agenda. Yep. Decriminalizing carbon dioxide, the unraveling of EPA's flawed endangerment finding. And much more. Egg Regis, 100,000 organic eggs stolen in Pennsylvania. So people are stealing eggs because they're so expensive. They know they can sell them on the black market and make tons and tons of money. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and then I pulled up this just to see if I could find a good list of some of the Doge USAID things that they found. And there are a few things listed here. I won't bother going through it, but it is there if you guys want to take a look. This is, to me, the funny one. Department of Government Efficiency tweeted this on February 7th. And you can see it's got the U.S. Agency for International Development. This is the verbiage. It has the words above the door here, and it's been removed in this other picture. And the caption for the picture is what's funny. Unburdened by what has been. That is funny. Unburdened by what has been. Anyway, that's the Doge X account. And then a few Wine Press News articles. Zelensky admits that half the U.S. aid to Ukraine is missing. Mentioned that earlier. That is also available, including the video interview where he's talking and subtitled for your reference, but that's on Wine Press. And then Trump shamelessly demands Ukraine hand over its rare earth minerals as repayment for funding the war against Russia. Zelensky loves the idea. We are open to American companies investing in Ukraine. Like we haven't been doing that already, with multi-billions of dollars that they're not getting. Yeah. Trump indicated yesterday that he's demanding that embattled Ukraine fork over its rare earth minerals as a way to repay the U.S. for its hundreds of billions in military support. So, I don't know. You'd have thought that the Biden administration would have already claimed all of that, but who knows? Ukraine is a key potential supplier of rare earth minerals, including titanium, lithium, beryllium, manganese, gallium, uranium, zirconium, I guess, graphite, apatite, it's probably apatite, fluorite, and nickel. Despite the war, Ukraine holds the largest titanium reserves in Europe, 7% of the world's reserves. It's one of the few countries that mine titanium ores, crucial for aerospace, medical, automotive, and marine industries. So no wonder Trump was wanting that. So, wow, titanium, amongst other things. So that's on Wine Press. And then one more from there. Trump delays tariffs for 30 days with Mexico and Canada after reaching agreement, which we mentioned that earlier because they decided to protect their borders a little more from the fentanyl and from the illegals. The Gateway Pundit articles, I thought we would just look at the headlines here. It says, rough night for KC, meaning Kansas City. Taylor Swift looks confused as she is booed at the Super Bowl. Super Bowl crowd erupts in cheers when Trump appears on the Jumbotron during the national anthem. And then this one, epic. Trump releases powerful ad in support of Secret Service prior to Super Bowl, was that 59? Can you see what's missing? Yeah, I would say that what's missing is he's not falling up the stairs. That's what we're missing. He actually knows how to climb a flight of stairs going up into an airplane. It's amazing. And apparently there was a, what's it called? The halftime show. Kendrick Lamar bombs out at Super Bowl halftime show. So I guess he must have really stunk it up pretty bad. Pro-Palestinian protesters interrupt Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. So I guess he was interrupted by the pro-Palestinian protester. Olympics may completely ban trans competitors, likely new president's top priority, meaning the new president of the Olympics. Thought that was pretty interesting. DHS Secretary Noem announces FEMA, under her watch, has resolved 80% of Western North Carolina's cases in just 5 days. And the Biden administration did nothing for all those months. Was it like 5 months or something? Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced that on Saturday that under her watch, FEMA has resolved 80% of Western North Carolina hurricane cases in 5 days. I'm not sure what they mean by resolving. That's what I wanted to look at. She says President Trump came in and visited the community and in less than 20 days secured over $54 million for families in need and registered 2,600 families that need assistance and hadn't gotten that type of help to get signed up for the programs that we have. Yeah, they were being turned away by the Biden administration. It says in the past 5 days, we've decreased the number of open cases by almost 80%. So that's good. So the people there are getting some help. That's good news. Obviously, Joe Biden and the Democrats did not care about those suffering families in North Carolina, but Trump is back. David Sachs explains why the liberal establishment in D.C. is freaking out over the exposure of USAID. The money is all going to them. Yep. That is where it's going. The money is flowing, and they do not want to shut it off. But Trump already has, at least to some degree. At least with that. Who knows? Now that we know where the money is and isn't, will reality hit the markets hard? So that will be interesting. A lot of people are saying, well, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, then that means the stock market's going to crash. Though apparently that happened years and years ago. I don't know when, but I don't know, but that's what people are saying. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the stock market tomorrow. So that's this is not talking about the football aspect, but this is talking about where the money has gone, and will it hit the markets hard? And then this other article, WikiLeaks, USAID has been funding over 6,000 journalists worldwide, and across nearly 1,000 platforms. Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg Super Bowl ad isn't what you think. Here's who's behind it. So the ad is paid for by the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. That's all you need to know. Anyway, and then there is several other interesting articles on Activist Post. That's where those are. ActivistPost.com. And then I pulled up one from Not to Be. I thought this was interesting. I hadn't heard this. I did know about the first part. Trump informs nation from the Super Bowl, so just tonight, that the U.S. Treasury will stop making pennies. Project 2025 is complete, it says. And then his tweet says, for far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally costs us more than 2 cents. So each penny that's worth 1 cent costs even more than 2 cents to mint. This is so wasteful, I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. No joke, Trump posted this during the third quarter of the Super Bowl. So yeah, he was obviously bored watching the Chiefs lose. So that was about the time that he left, I think. So he was working on the penny post, I guess, about that time. So anyway, yeah, no more pennies. No more new ones, at least. Doesn't say what they're going to do with the old ones. I guess they'll leave them in circulation. So anyway, everybody quick, go hoard your pennies. That's what this says. So that's on Not to Be. And a couple of, one article and one meme here from InfoWars. It says, federal employees getting fired for refusing the means. They were all about that. You could see the Dems were. Federal employees getting fired for wasting taxpayer money, they are not too happy about. So that's one meme. And then this article I thought was kind of interesting. I thought I would look at it just a little closer. This is from John Bowen, actually. Turn the dial to the Holy Spirit. We've seen the signs, the manipulation, the globalist agenda, pushing us into a corner where true faith and liberty are under siege, but there's a way out. In these dark times where the New World Order's grip tightens around our freedoms and our souls, we must rise, brothers and sisters. We've seen the signs, the manipulation, the globalist agenda pushing us into a corner where true faith and liberty are under siege, but there's a way out. A beacon of hope that no man-made power can extinguish, the Holy Spirit. Turning to the Holy Spirit, we arm ourselves not with swords or guns, but with divine wisdom and unshakable faith. We must pray not just for deliverance, but for the strength to stand firm, to reject the lies of the elite, to educate our fellow man, and to live in the truth of Christ. Only through this spiritual awakening can we defeat the shadows that seek to control us, reclaiming our God-given rights and sovereignty, guided by the light of the Holy Spirit. I thought that was really good. That was very much something that we need to remember and take to heart, for sure. Good words from John Bowen. And then, let's see here, modernity.news. I thought this article was kind of interesting. Other people were reporting on this as well. So, Democrat representative sterilizes herself to protest Trump. So I figured that one out. A Democrat state rep from Michigan says she has sterilized herself. I wonder if she really did. They lie about everything, so who's to say? Let's see the receipts. Sterilize herself as a form of protest against Trump. Why? How does that hurt him? I have no idea. Representative Lori Pohutsky stated just under 2 weeks ago, I underwent surgery to ensure that I would never have to navigate a pregnancy in Donald Trump's America. So that's not even Trump derangement syndrome. That would be even worse. I have to come up with a name for that one. I refuse to let my body be treated as currency by an administration that only sees value in my ability to procreate. I guess she means because the Supreme Court returned that decision over abortion back to the states. I guess that's why. Anyway, she added this while speaking to hundreds of extreme left-wing protesters on the lawn of the Michigan Capitol. If you know people who are questioning how serious this is, I'm going to repeat myself. A sitting government official opted for voluntary sterilization because she was uncertain she would be able to access contraception in the future. And why is that? Because has Trump threatened to do away with contraception? Did I miss that one? Yeah, unable to access contraception. What on earth is she blathering about? In 2022, Michigan added a measure to their state constitution that made abortion, contraception, and sterilization, quote, a fundamental right. So, and there she is. Anyway, Democrats continue to show their stupidity and grotesqueness at the same time. She had no rights removed by Donald John Trump. Abortion is legal in Michigan. In April 2023, Governor Whitmer repealed a 1931 law that banned abortion in most cases. The state constitution also guarantees abortion rights, and yet she claims to have sterilized herself because it is all about her taking it to the man, meaning Trump. So figure that one out. I mean, there's no way really to understand it. It's just total derangement syndrome on parade. All right, and then vaccine impact, some of the top headlines on here. Jesus said that he did not come to make the world a better place. World destruction is coming, and only a few will survive. This is specifically showing a picture of Los Angeles here, but there's more to be seen there on that particular article if you want to check it out. And again, I've mentioned this before. Vaccine impact is super anti-Trump. So if you are also anti-Trump, you might want to check out some of their articles. Exposing Trump's partner, Zionist Oracle founder Larry Ellison, and his longstanding relationship with the CIA and role in Operation Warp Speed, which that's all bad news. I totally agree. That is something that we need to know about. Opening soon in Gaza, Trump's Jewish family real estate empire wants Gaza for themselves, Palestinians told to leave. See, I don't know. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic. I don't know that that's actually going to happen. I mean, maybe they do want Gaza for themselves, but I don't think they'll get it, is what I'm saying. Here's how Musk and Doge and Kennedy and Trump can immediately cut over $70 billion in federal spending, end the federal funding for trafficking children in medical kidnapping. So this has to do with CPS, I'm sure. So yeah, that would be important for sure. So that is just a few of the headlines. There's obviously quite a few here on vaccineimpact.com. It's a good site. And then I wanted to mention this one. This is one that was, I heard about it, and then a friend of mine sent me an article on this. Trump appoints staunch pro-Israel pastor Paula White to lead new White House faith office. So this is White leading the White House faith office. And of course, Israel 365 News is all for it and think it's the best thing ever. I mean, if they have to let Christians live, I suppose, then it's the best thing ever. U.S. President Trump announced Thursday at the National Prayer Breakfast that he would create a White House faith office. So yeah, and then it's going to be led by Pastor Paula White, who is somebody that I guess has raised a lot of eyebrows. And I didn't really know who she was or anything, but this is a very much pro Paula White and pro Trump's decision type of article. Now you wouldn't know it, but this old guy right here, standing next to her, I guess it's her husband, but this is Jonathan Cain, and it says Pastor Paula White and husband Jonathan Cain praying from the Israel Bible. So another reason that they really like it. At the Tomb of the Patriarchs in Hebron, June 2023. So yeah, Jonathan Cain was the keyboard player for Journey, a band called Journey. You might remember them. Anyway, that's her husband, and she's been getting a lot of negative press as well. So this is a pro Paula White piece here, which I think is just kind of funny based on where it is. And then this one, Daily Mail, Christians furious as Trump appoints heretic preacher to lead the White House faith office. So this is another one of those really boneheaded mistakes that he's made, but he thinks it's great. So figure it out. I don't know. Trump has sparked a backlash from leading Christians over his appointment of controversial televangelist to the White House. The president signed an executive order to open the White House faith office led by Paula White, his longtime spiritual advisor. So that's interesting. Trump established a similar office at the White House during his first term and regularly consulted with a tight group of evangelical advisors. But the move sparked fury from Christian leaders who believe that White, a megachurch pastor from Florida, preaches an interpretation of the gospel that critics argue exploit the most vulnerable. White teaches followers that God will reward them if they donate to her church, going as far as to suggest precise sums over $1,000 to ensure their salvation. So that right there should be some ginormous red flags. This is an abomination, wrote Christian motivational speaker Scott Ross on X. She preaches the heresies of word and faith and prosperity gospel, both utterly opposed to authentic Christianity. Worse, she has lived a life of scandal with multiple husbands, twisting the gospel for profit. The teachings of the minister, who is married to rock star and Journey lead singer Jonathan Cain, which he's not the lead singer, he's a keyboard player, have nevertheless rubbed off on Trump, who first contacted her by phone in 2002 after watching one of her shows. So, and there's Jonathan Cain and her right here. So, anyway, I just thought I would mention that because that is another glaringly bad choice. But I'm sure he thinks it's just probably the best thing ever, and that's how you get on the side of the evangelicals. Obviously, he's probably going to be alienating a lot of evangelicals with this move. Yeah, Steve Perry was the lead singer. That's right. You know your Journey trivia. Yeah, Jonathan Cain. He's a good keyboard player, but I have no idea if he's a good Zionist or not. He might be. I didn't realize that he was. So, anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning, and another, like I said, another bad choice by Trump. He's full of them, right? Rabbi, Trump's Gaza plan, the catalyst to bring the Messiah. And they don't mean Jesus Christ. They mean their Moshiach. Trump, always a businessman. See, now these type of articles on this website are very pro-Trump because of his meeting with Netanyahu lately. They have other articles, you just go back a few weeks, and there's some that are anti-Trump. Anyway, he shocked the world after meeting with Netanyahu and described a vision for Gaza as a Mediterranean resort. Administered by U.S. left-wing pundits immediately rejected Trump's new Gaza proposal to allow Gazans to relocate, which the Israelis would be all for that, right? Incorrectly labeling it ethnic cleansing. No, that's not it. It's murder. In point of fact, Gaza was ethnically cleansed in 2005 when all of the Jews were forcibly relocated. So here we go, rewriting history a bit. The current agenda being advocated by Democrats and the United Nations is explicitly inhumane, stripping Gazans of their fundamental right to flee a war zone that they created. I'm adding that. Anyway, I was looking to see what it says about the Messiah. If it's just a signal or a sign, maybe? The Talmud, okay, so we're back to the Talmud here, not the Bible. I mean, we can't use the Bible after all. It's the Israelis we're talking about here. The Talmud says that the Moshiach, Messiah, is waiting for the Jews to do teshuvah, repent, literally return. It is inevitable that the Jews will do teshuvah, but if they don't do it on their own, God will send someone like Hamas to force them to do teshuvah. God is giving Israel a choice. We can choose the way of teshuvah and peace, or we can reject that and get hit by evil men like Hamas and Hamas. I don't know why it says it twice. Obviously, that already happened October 7th, 2023. That was the stand down. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. It is important to remember that Trump and Hamas are both serving God, but they chose which way they wanted to serve God. Hamas is the worst form of evil, and they will get punished for their actions. Trump is helping Israel and will certainly receive a reward. I mean, I agree. Hamas is bad news. It is bad news. But the IDF and the Israelis, at least the people at the top over there, are just as bad as Hamas. And keep in mind that Hamas was founded by Israel and the U.S. Little detail that no one seems to want to remember. But Rabbi Winston emphasized that the end game is known. The Messiah will come and the Jews will all return to Israel. Trump clearly has one job: bring the Jews back to Israel and help us establish the third temple. Rabbi Winston said, in that way, he's like Cyrus, which we've heard all that before, who in the Bible referred to as the Moshiach, So anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. And along those lines, let's take a look at this guy. Now, I know some of you guys don't necessarily trust this guy. I think he really is a pastor, Brandon Biggs, right? But he's talking about the third temple and quite a few other things in this a little bit scatterbrained video, but that's how he does his videos on his channel. A lot of times he's with his family or whatever. And I would just point out that I do personally, I like this guy and think that he really is in touch with God's will and the Holy Spirit. I do think so. I know some of you guys don't necessarily, but as I've watched him, I really do kind of get that impression, and he really has accurately, prophetically, if you want to call it that, said some things that have actually come to pass. Meaning, he was a guy that said many, many months before Trump's ear got shot that was what was going to happen and so forth. We've been through all that before. So he predicted that, or he forecasted that, or whatever you want to say. He prophesied that. He doesn't call himself a prophet. I would make that distinction. He calls himself a watchman specifically. Although if someone calls him a prophet, I don't think that he's out there correcting them either. But I wanted to bring this up just because he does specifically mention Trump and the third temple in this video that I just happened across a few days ago. And his family all seems really nice. They're just in the picture here. He's got a special needs daughter, I know. And he himself he's just a janitor. So he's literally just sort of fallen into this ministry. So I think he's really interesting. I do think that he is probably, from what I can tell, really pro-Israel, probably an evangelical, I would define as. And many of you guys will like the fact that he's also a pre-tribber. So he's evangelical and a pre-tribber and pro-Israel, which I'm none of those things really, other than pro-Israel from the standpoint of Israel the people. Yes, I'm not Israel the nation state. I'm not pro-Israel the nation state, but I am definitely Israel in the Bible, the Israelites, pro that. So anyway, let's watch this. It's not very long. It's just a few minutes of it, and I just thought it was really interesting to see what he says about the third temple. So here is that.
It's just amazing to see the end times unfolding right in front of our faces. I believe we will see in the days ahead a great acceleration of Turkey helping out Syria. I believe we will see a great, the Lord, I'll tell you all this. When I was praying, the Lord showed me that the Temple Mount, the third temple in Jerusalem is about to get rebuilt. Is about to be built, not rebuilt, but be built. The third temple is about to be built. And the Lord showed me that Trump will have a major part in bringing forth the peace accord with Saudi Arabia and these other nations, and that we will see the third temple be built in a short amount of time. I'm not going to tell you when, but I'm telling you it's coming. And so get ready, because we're seeing something that has to happen so that the Lord Jesus Christ is coming back. And so I hope you all are excited about it, because to see the third temple come about and get that built and be so close to him coming, the end times is unfolding right in front of our face, folks. We're that last generation. We are the generation that will not taste death. We are the generation that will experience the great outpouring, a spiritual awakening. Mrs. Billy said, Brandon, it's bigger than a revival. Because I said, a revival's coming, Miss Billy. And she said, no, an awakening unto God is coming. A great awakening is bigger than a revival. Because I said, what's the difference between awakening and a revival? Because Diana had to Google it because I didn't know. But Mrs. Billy said, Brandon, an awakening unto God, a generation of people who are filled with, controlled by the Holy Spirit.
All right. So anyway, that's a little bit longer probably than we even need to be bothering with here. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting what he's saying about the third temple. And, we'll see where it goes. I do think that Trump may very well have a very important role to play here. Now, he mentions Saudi Arabia. I don't know what Saudi Arabia would have to do with any of that. But, the Temple Mount is really, I think, between Israel and Jordan at this point, and then obviously the Muslims in general. So you could throw Saudi Arabia in there. But yeah, it will be a very interesting situation for sure in the next few years to see what happens there. And I do think that he probably is correct about that. He does seem to address the fact that, yeah, we are in the end times, but he's unfortunately very excited about a third temple coming. I think it's bad news given the fact that who is going to inhabit that, but he's a pre-tribber, so he doesn't really expect to be around still. Yeah, so it's something to watch. I do think it's interesting and does kind of go along with his other article that I mentioned, and it specifically talks about the third temple as well. So, it's another sign, another mile marker along the highway, right? So, but he was obviously very happy, very excited about Jesus' return, as we should all be. I think it's maybe not imminent, but if you look at it in the grand scheme of it all, I guess you could say it's imminent. It's not that far away, I don't think. No matter when it happens, it's probably not that far away. So something to be praying about for sure. All right, let's look at a couple more things. So GeoWatch for this week, geoengineeringwatch.org is the site. And you might not know it, but this is actually the brand new website that we were adding. We were going to update and get running this week. So we've got a few little hiccups with it that we're still kind of working through, but for the most part, it works like the old one. The main thing is the system that we have it on is something that can now be perpetually updated. The old one was not. So this was kind of actually a really large endeavor to rebuild geoengineeringwatch.org because it's a pretty massive site to begin with. So again, it was something that I kind of, as the web manager for Mr. Dane, something that I kind of inherited over the last few years or whatever. But it seems to be functioning pretty well, and we've got a few things to work through and a couple of little snags, but we'll get through it and get everything back like it was. But for the most part, it's very similar. It looks very similar to the old site. So anyway, the February 8th edition of Global Alert News is called Chemical Super Fog. A lot of people talking about the fogs lately, the fogs going on. Fog. Deadly super fog threatens Super Bowl Sunday in New Orleans. This is one quote from MSN. Headline from MSN. Historic showdown at the Superdome. Will super fog steal the spotlight? So I didn't really hear about that at all. Thick fog smothers the deep south, according to the Weather Channel. Another headline. What's in the fog? What's in the rain? What's going on in our skies? Latest installment of Global Alert News. So that is embedded here as well as the dimming. So a friend of mine, I told him about the dimming earlier in the week, and he was going to make sure to share that with some people that he knew as well. So it is a really good intro into the whole geoengineering idea and letting people know that this is going on in our skies. But we're hoping that perhaps with some of the audits that come, especially when they start auditing the Pentagon and start looking through some of their expenditures, that maybe that will get stopped or at least lessened even more than the USAID expensing of the various geoengineering programs may have. We don't know exactly, but anyway, that is the geoengineeringwatch.org update for the week. And then the scheduled weather, we have kind of an interesting way it's sliced up. The U.S.'s temperatures sliced up this week. This is valid from February 15th through the 19th. So we have a really cold area over most of the U.S. Again, I would definitely say that it's going to be as a result of mostly chemical ice nucleation. That's how they're able to cool most of the U.S. down. So, it remains to be seen whether or not we are seeing planes in our skies a lot. But I would say definitely be watching for that in the next 10 days or so and see what you see where you live. But below normal in the north, which would seem fairly quote-unquote normal, wouldn't it? Below normal in the north and a little bit warmer or near normal in the south and southeast and even southwest. So very interesting. So it seems to be shifting. I don't know. You could say that might be a little bit different than what you'd expect. We normally see the half and half right down the center or somehow split where we have a hot side and a cold side. I don't know why they're not doing that, or if this is maybe pointing to the fact that they're losing control somehow. I don't know. But if they're using chemical ice nucleation to cool down, then they're obviously still at it. So we'll see if this is what actually happens in the next 10 days or so. Anyway, and then my X account, I've got the Diamond Report on Twitter, and this is a guy that I wanted to mention. This is a really good, well, here, we could just listen to it. This is a really good synopsis.
The Democratic Party have lied to us about everything. They've lied about being the party of the middle class. They've lied about being the party of peace. They've lied about being the party that wants to help poor people. Okay? What the last several weeks have proven to us all is that this is a cadre of criminals and losers and spoiled children of affluent parents who were more concerned about looking good than actually doing good. These are people who were more concerned about looking like they were doing something for the American people than actually doing things for the American people. And that's why I'm so angry. Because this party lied to me while stealing my tax dollars. The Democratic Party lied to us all while they brought in millions of illegal immigrants for their own political purposes for the last 4 years. 20 to 30 million illegal aliens brought in. And now we come to USAID being probably the largest money laundering operation in American history. Congratulations, Dems. You've outdone even Bernie Madoff. I'm disgusted beyond words. Disgusted with the waste of money. Disgusted with the waste, with the fraud. With the way that you people use color legitimacy and the way you use black people as mules to get us to push whatever agenda you wanted to. The amount of division you used black people to sow upon the American people, you used us for that. And I will never, ever forgive this political party that I've gone through personally. Y'all were supposed to be the party of free speech, the party of women's rights. You have immolated all of those things. And then, as if enough weren't enough, you then decide that you're going to die on the hill of USAID, a government audit. You're trying to prevent a government audit because some of you really are trying to stay out of prison. We see the game now. Y'all been out here telling us that the game was rigged against certain people. Well, now we found out who the people that were rigging the game were. Congratulations. Y'all are never going to win another political race ever again. Not if I can help it.
Wow, how about that? That was quite the rant. I thought really good. And yeah, he really pretty much touches on everything that they've been doing. So good for him. That guy's name is Isaiah, and I think I reposted something else of his. Isaiah Carter. So he was on with Alex on his show. This is him. He was on with him earlier in the week. I thought it was really good. He did a really good job of breaking down things as far as that video and some other stuff that they talked about that was, I thought, really important. But he was super aware, and it sort of seems like in that particular video, it sounds like he's just waking up to all this kind of stuff, but really, I think he's been aware of it, and he just made that video as more of a rant, from what I understand. Now, this guy is something else, so check this one out. This is interesting as well. Must watch viral breakdown of how the USAID scam really works. Popular online comedian, conspiracy dealer Ross Bennett. Ross the Boss is what it says. So here's this one. Pretty short.
Dude, this USAID thing is so much worse than people realize. Do y'all remember when people were angry at Elon Musk for buying Twitter for $40 billion? Because he could have solved world hunger with that money. Okay? Keep that same energy. Okay? We were supposed to have sent like somewhere around $200 billion to Ukraine. Remember all those little packages? Well, even Zelensky says that only about half of it even got there. So there's $100 billion that's just floating around somewhere. That could have solved world hunger. But your government was so inefficient and so corrupt, and you don't even care about it? In fact, you're more mad that we stopped US aid for a minute and paused it so we can figure out what the flip all of our money's going to, bro? This is not a normal response. Your reaction is being manipulated by the media. It has to be, because you would be mad under any other circumstances. Imagine your dad left you a business that used to make you $100 a month. And now that business is losing you like $10,000 a month. You would go in and go, what's going on? And it's like pretend it's a mattress company. And you look at the expenditures and you're like, well, these aren't springs and cotton and mattress sheets and things like that. No, we're buying cement in Dubai for 10 times the price that anybody else ever paid. What's going on? And then one of the managers comes up to you and goes, hey, you're not supposed to have access to this warehouse. What are you even doing in here? You would be like, I'm getting scammed so hard, pause everything. Everybody's going to jail, bro. Meanwhile, Maui, North Carolina, and California are all burning down, and we never seem to have enough money for that. Hell, Flint, Michigan's water costs like $1.5 billion, and it would be fixed, bro. We give Ethiopia more than that every year. And then you start looking at all the politicians that have been connected to this thing, and you wonder, why are these guys yelling so much? And you look into how they're receiving their revenue. Oh, it goes out in USA, it does a little cool loop-de-loop dance, and then comes back to their families. Oh, well, Ross, if it was this bad, the news would have told us about it. Nope, because the other thing USAID is funding is all of the freaking media, bro. They are deciding what you guys think, which is why all of them have made you all think that we're the bad guys this whole time. They knew that if we won, we would see this and cut off their funding. There's a movie called The Truman Show with Jim Carrey where basically everything around him is like a controlled environment and things like that. If you found out that all of the same opinions that you've had from the media for the last 10 years were funded and created for you to have those opinions, wouldn't you pump the brakes a little bit and start thinking maybe the right-wingers aren't so bad? We voted for this so we can see all the leeches that are sucking the money out of all of our company, bro. Join the team.
All right, there it is. Very interesting. Yeah, that was a good one. Another good rant, I thought, there as well. Pretty funny. Anyway, that was something that I found and retweeted on Twitter X, and it's on my Diamond Report page on there if you guys want to check it out. Anyways, thought, oh yeah, I wanted to mention this too. This is something I remember thinking when I saw Trump last week surrounded by all these girls, young girls and older girls, where he's signing the executive order to keep men out of girls and women's sports. And I was just thinking, he's got all those girls around him and he's not even sniffing a single one of them. And then somebody put this out, spot the difference. Yeah, he's not touching them in some unfortunate way. He's not sniffing them. He's not biting them. He's not kissing them or whatever it was that Biden was always doing. So it's kind of refreshing to not have to see that nightmare again. So this guy right here he's got a really interesting website called Invisible Inquiry. And I pulled up a couple of tabs on that. I wanted to mention this as well if you guys want to check it out. It is Invisible INQ, like Invisible Ink, invisibleinc.com. And there's some really fascinating things that he put together here talking about the USAID expenditures. This one says, Sleuthing the Dark Money Trail, Part 1. And all of these, what looks to be pieces of art, are actually, well, it says here, each green dot, like in this one, each green dot represents a payment. So these are all put into place, and it looks like a galaxy almost, but it's put into place using AI and feeding AI with all of this data. So just looking through just some of the text here on this article, it says, I temporarily paused USAID news archiving in Grok 2 to, Grok is the AI built into Twitter X, to prioritize integrating government spending data into my network. That's when I uncovered something alarming. Between 2012 and 22, USAID funneled $3 billion into what was unmistakably a dark money operation. Keep reading. This Graph XR hierarchical spending network visualizes USAID spending through primary awarding agencies and contractors structured as follows. USAID is the center, and then to the amount, which is in green, to the recipient company, which is in brown, and then to the recipient parent companies in red. The data reveals three very distinct financial funnels. The names of these recipients, question mark. It says undisclosed. Miscellaneous foreign awardees. And foreign awardees undisclosed. And domestic awardees undisclosed. So this is where some of the money is being funneled to. So I just thought it was really interesting what this guy's put together using AI and feeding the USAID data into it. And this is on invisibleinc.com, but it's INQ, not INK. Doja Unwrapped, a closer look at the network behind the Department of Government Efficiency. So this is sort of more data points here with how some of this money has been discovered to have been spent. So it's all graphed out here on this 3D computer model. It's really interesting, and you can see that it's all notated as far as who's getting what, and it's pretty amazing. It's again, it looks like a galaxy of data. There's so many little nodes and connections and stuff between payments being made. It's pretty wild. So I didn't really click on any of these. These are all a little bit expandable. Might take a minute to load. Yeah, they're just still shots, but he does have a full 3D archive of it where you can go in and zoom in and see every little detail on here, which is pretty amazing. So again, he's doing good work, I think, just trying to put it all in a place where humans can understand it all. There's just so much data. Anyway, this is another video I came across earlier that was posted by a guy named Matt Baker, whom I've followed for a little while on Twitter. Let me tell you a story about Doge Override Inside the Revolution Rewiring American Power, which was adapted from an article written by Eco Loves You on Substack. So again, unburdened by what has been, before and after, erased from existence. All right, and then if you guys want to jump on my Substack there, it would be nice to have you aboard. I certainly would appreciate it, and you would just get an email from me at some point on Tuesday when I send that out, that will have all the links to tonight's show in it. So totally free. You can jump on there if you guys want, and if you're not already, and you'll get an email on Tuesday. I also send one out on Monday that has the podcast, so tonight's show in podcast form as well. So that'll be linked and embedded there and up on the various platforms as well. The podcast will be available on let's see. Well, it's on the native spot that it is right there within Substack, but it also will be pushed out to Spotify and to Apple Podcasts. So it'll be there tomorrow in audio form only, but then it will also be on the other platforms that I use, such as Brighteon and BitChute and Rumble. So those channels look a little bit like this. It's Diamond Disc on Rumble, Diamond Disc on BitChute, and also on Brighteon. It's spelled DIAMONDISC. It's right here. So if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing, I would certainly appreciate that. And then on YouTube, though, I am Take It to the Lord in Prayer, End Times Dates on there. I was Diamond Disc on here as well, but my channel got deleted by some YouTube shaft back a few years ago when I started talking about the they just completely wiped out my channel. But anyway, I would mention I was going to do a video last week. I didn't have time this week to do it, but still going to plan to do that. I've gone up from 921 subscribers clear up to 922 subscribers. So I do have one added here, and we'll just make a mental note here. My guess is it'll be back to 921, certainly by next week, if not before. Just a guess. I don't think they're letting me get above and stay above 921. So that was what I was going to do a video on. I mentioned that last week. But yeah, Miss Emily has posted the Substack link in chat. It's in the chat on Rumble as well as YouTube. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, if you guys want to support the Diamond Report, I would certainly appreciate that. You can do that by subscribing on Substack, which also offers a method of contributing to the show. If you want to go that way, I've got just a handful of people that do that, as well as on Subscribestar. So no pressure. It is there, though, if you guys want to help me sort of defray my cost and help out the show. That's the best way to do it, is really through Subscribestar, Substack as well, and then we have the products in the Diamond Report store. So various T-shirts and hats and mugs and water bottles and coasters and all kinds of stuff over here. So Diamond Report, and also you'll see some things with the End Times Dates logo on there as well, which is coming from the YouTube channel. So that's what that's about. Doug battling the YouTube demons. Yes, I know. That does seem to be, that's kind of a weekly thing around here. Yep. And then if you're not in the band group, please join the band group. It's totally free. And that's just our community. It's some of the folks in chat, and then some of the other people who are listeners to the show, people that contribute in various ways, usually by just posting what they're looking at, what they're researching, and gives me ideas on things to talk about as well on this show. We don't really have a censorship aspect. I mean, if you're posting something that would be not good, then we'd talk about it at that point. But like we had somebody, we don't know if it was a bot or what, but someone trying to sell Taylor Swift tickets in there, which you might be able to get them cheap now. I don't know. Now that the Chiefs lost, maybe you can get them cheap. But no, that kind of thing would be frowned upon. But for the most part, we have total free speech, and you can go in there and pretty much talk about what you want, and not get in any sort of censorship trouble or issues, unlike Facebook and other places. So yeah, we love the lack of censorship, Doug. Susan says, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. She said, Emily says, I'm wearing my super comfy Diamond Report sweatshirt. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a couple of those as well, like hoodies. So, and those are available here on the store. So thank you guys for supporting the Diamond Report. It really helps me out a lot, and helps me out that you're sharing the show. Some of you guys, you know who you are. You go and share the show with your friends, and post it in various places that I don't have access to. So thank you guys. It helps build the following. You know how that goes. It takes a long time to build followings on shows like this. So we've been at it a while. I was trying to think. It was November 1st was the first show of the Diamond Report. November 1st of 2021. So it's been that long. So, we've got a few years in now. So that's we're still working on perfecting things and getting things a little bit smoother and more interesting. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'm all ears. Definitely be willing to impart that information and ideas to me. I would certainly like to hear them. If you guys are watching other shows and it gives you ideas for what we could do on this show, I'm certainly open to hearing that. So, but definitely join the band group if you guys want, and I would like to see you guys in there. That would be awesome. Again, totally free. And let's take a look at the chat, though. I was looking at the chat to see if I was missing anything in particular on the YouTube chat. Not too much going on in the Rumble chat. You guys are quiet over there, as usual. And says I've become alienated from another group I was in simply because of their censorship. Yeah, that does happen. Censorship is bad. It is. I've been censored so many times, I try not to ever get into doing anything like that in any groups I'm involved in, which there aren't very many anymore, but I used to be in, different Facebook groups and handle some of those types of things, but I kind of got out of all that now. Let's see. Kathy says skies in Napa were much improved. That's good. And that may or may not be as a result of the Doge shutting down the payments from USAID. I don't know. Again, if you guys, wherever you are in the world, try and make a mental note of what your skies look like and come back and report next week in chat here. And just let me know if you guys are noticing that the skies are clearer. Because I sort of doubt that it's really going to be anything lasting, but we just don't know. Because we don't know where all those black money type projects, how they're being funded and where it's coming from. But it would make sense to me that most of these global geoengineering type of programs would be being funded by our government, by us. So that would make sense that we're paying to have ourselves be destroyed. That would make sense. Because they would very much enjoy that, wouldn't they? Oh, yeah. Emily is talking about her, the video that Dave Sparks made. Okay, so I will send you a message and documentary Dave Sparks made of Dad's recovery mission. Yeah, so that is coming. That's not available yet in a public format, but yeah, the Dave Sparks recovery mission of of Emily's dad's plane crash is something to behold for sure. I actually saw that, and the production quality of it is just absolutely first rate, top notch. It is really, really well done. And I really look forward to the final version of it coming out whenever that's done. Hopefully it won't be too much longer, but yeah, it's quite the mission. Those guys really risked it all to go rescue her dad and his plane. So that was an amazing story. So thank you, Emily, for sharing that with us. Yeah, and we'll post that. I mean, as soon as that comes out, we'll definitely put that in the show links and stuff and send that out to people so they can see it. Because that's something that is really good information to have and see what happened. Kind of getting late here, so I guess we'll call it a week, call it a night. It is, 12:51 on 2/10. So the next show will be on the 16th. So February 16th, starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. So that'll be the next live show, and we will see you guys back here next week. Blessings to you all. Hope you have a really great week, and remember to keep the Lord Jesus close to you and close to your heart, and stay in touch with Him through the Holy Spirit, and continue to pray for each other, and continue to pray for me if you don't mind. I certainly would enjoy that, and my health seems to be a little bit better this week, I guess. It's, incrementally getting better and better, so thank you guys for the tips and stuff. I've been doing a few things differently, and seem to be a little bit better than I was last week, so I'm just trying to get over having walking pneumonia for the last, 5 weeks at this point. So anyways, I appreciate your prayers, and definitely stay in touch. You can do that through leaving comments on any of the videos or through band. It's the best way to do it. So thank you guys. God bless you all, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys back here again next week.